The first sound at Naomi's wedding was not singing, not applause. It was a shrill, piercing wail from a speaker hidden behind a vase, cutting across the Afrobeat music and laughter. In that moment, everyone thought it was just a technical glitch. But for Naomi, it was the opening bell of the truth. A truth that would turn a glamorous wedding night into a public trial, where the bride would not give vows, but present evidence. The afternoon in Houston poured pale golden light onto the glass walls of Riverbend Grand. The high-rise, already famous for its lavish parties overlooking the calm river, was brighter than ever. The ballroom gleamed with dozens of crystal chandeliers hanging high, scattering tiny sparks like falling starlight. Afrobeat thundered from the speakers, making the dance floor and the glass cups on the tables tremble in rhythm. Aunts in shimmering golden dresses twirled among circles of friends. Uncles clapped along, polished shoes stomping the wooden floor. The sharp spice of jollof, mixed with the smoky scent of grilled chicken and wood fire rising from the kitchen, giving the room a feeling both grand and intimate, like a church service tangled with a weekend street market. Tonight's bride, Naomi Johnson-Ellis, sat at the sweetheart table adorned with pure white magnolia branches. Her lace gown, hugging her slender frame, was embroidered by hand with Yoruba motifs her mother had painstakingly sent to the seamstress months before. When she leaned slightly, the ballroom light poured down, making the lace glow pale blue, like lake water under the moon. The veil had been pulled back, revealing her serene face. Naomi's smile looked calm, like a pond before the wind rises. But if anyone looked closely, they would see her left hand tremble, ever so slightly like an extra heartbeat. Across from her sat Marcus Reed, the groom, tall, broad-shouldered, with a neat fade haircut and sharply defined features. He wore a fitted navy suit, a red carnation pinned to his lapel. He smiled a smile that had once convinced Naomi it was the smile of sincerity, a dazzling white smile that could have been plastered on any highway billboard. Marcus turned to his groomsmen, laughing and slapping their shoulders like the whole room was his private stage. The evening's MC, Andre Collins, held the mic with a warm voice that flowed like late-night radio. He teased Marcus's clumsy dance steps, making guests laugh. Andre was the kind of man who knew how to keep the air alive, to make everyone feel they were part of something big and joyful. But when Naomi tapped the mic on her table and said, "May I have your attention?" the laughter cut off instantly, like someone had yanked the cord from the speaker. A sharp sound, small but piercing, came from a speaker hidden behind the magnolias. Feedback. It sliced through Afrobeat, through laughter, freezing aunts mid-spin. Their golden skirts still flared while their bodies stood still. All eyes turned to the sweetheart table. Andre fell silent, mouth still curved in a smile, but his eyes blinking, bewildered. For a moment, the crowded ballroom grew eerily quiet. Naomi rose. The veil slipped down, revealing her high bun pinned with tiny ornaments. Crystal lights cascaded down the sparkling stones on her shawl. She held the mic as delicately as a flower stem, but her gaze was steady, unshaken. "Family," Naomi began, her voice soft yet firm, like a temple bell at dawn. "Before we cut the cake, I want to share something special." Marcus frowned briefly, then quickly smiled. "My little Naomi loves surprises. We didn't schedule a speech, did we?" His charming tone drew a few chuckles, guests thinking it was just playful banter between the newlyweds. But in his eyes, a flicker of worry darted past, quick as a bird's shadow. Naomi tilted her head. "You know I like surprises." The words were gentle, but under the gentleness lay steel. The room hushed like a church. The old DJ, famous since the cassette era, glanced at Naomi, waiting for her signal. She nodded. The music cut off completely. For a moment, there was only the clink of spoons against glasses, the sound of breath. In the corner, Janelle Brooks, Naomi's cousin and closest confidant, held up her phone, filming a story. But when she caught Naomi's gaze, she lowered it, eyes narrowing, sensing something unusual. Mama Ruth sat in the front row, clutching a tissue tightly. She didn't know what her daughter was about to say, but a mother's soul could feel every tremor in her voice. Naomi placed the mic at the edge of the table. Her right hand lifted a glass of champagne. Her left, hidden beneath the white calla lilies, gripped a small remote. It pressed into her palm like a stone. Naomi drew a deep breath, chest rising and falling. At that moment, she wasn't at Riverbend Grand anymore. She was back in the cold service hallway, 26 minutes earlier. Her back pressed against the concrete wall, the chill seeping through her silk gown. Around the corner, Marcus's voice drifted, smooth but smug. "I told you, baby, she believes me. She thinks this is love. Really, it's just a lifetime meal ticket." Another voice, female, sweet yet sharp as a razor, replied, "Just transfer it before midnight. Her father's trust lasts for 30 days. You promise me." Naomi had heard every word, each syllable burning like pepper on a raw tongue. Her hand had trembled then, wanting to burst out, to scream. But she swallowed it, hid it. Now, standing before 100 people, she remembered that tremor. It wasn't fear anymore, it was readiness. She lifted the mic again, smiling faintly. "Marcus," she called, sweet enough that guests might think it was a wife's tender address to her husband. "Do you know what my father used to say? Truth is like medicine. Bitter, but it heals." Marcus smiled. That smile had once made Naomi believe in the nights he brought her soup, in the days he helped draft the Ellis catering expansion plan. Now, it looked like a mask. Naomi's gaze swept across the room, from the golden-dressed aunts to her college friends, to Reverend Elijah Johnson, who prayed for the couple that morning. Everyone held their breath, as if waiting for the next song, but dreading what they'd hear. "Before I play this," Naomi raised the remote. Its red light blinking for a second only Janelle was close enough to notice. "I want to say, if anyone hears something that hurts, take a deep breath." My father said, "Pain is medicine." The room froze. Naomi pressed the button. The large screen behind Marcus flickered. Words appeared. Voice memo. D. Then Marcus's familiar voice filled the hall, deep and magnetic, no longer private to Naomi, but for everyone. "I told you, baby. She believes me. This isn't love. This is a lifetime meal ticket." The words dropped like a blade. Gasps filled the air. A child wailed before being quickly hushed. A spoon clattered onto a plate, ringing sharply across the table. Mama Ruth clutched her tissue, eyes wide, as though someone had squeezed her heart. Naomi didn't look at the screen. She looked at faces. A bridesmaid's hand flew to her mouth. An uncle frowned, as if swallowing bitter liquor. Janelle tilted her head, eyes blazing. Marcus still sat there, smile forced. He let out a dry laugh. "Come on, everyone, this is hilarious. Obviously edited. Men joke around. Honey, turn it off." Naomi tilted her head. "You're right. Context matters." She clicked again. The screen shifted to grainy hallway footage. Marcus stood against the wall, Vanessa in a red dress, laying her hand on his lapel. Her voice poured into the mic. "Don't be clumsy, Marcus. Remember what you said. Ellis Catering belongs to me after tonight." The room erupted like a breaking wave. Some prayed aloud. Some banged tables in protest. MC Andre froze, his mic slipping from his hand. Marcus leapt up, trying to block the screen. "Naomi, stop. This is a wedding. You're humiliating yourself." Naomi lifted her chin. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried, "If truth is medicine, then I'll take it with everyone." And Marcus, her eyes locked on the man who once was everything today. "I am no one's meal ticket." Marcus stood there, his shadow blocking a corner of the screen, but the video kept rolling. From below, murmurs swirled, whispers crashing like a storm in a church before thunder. Familiar faces, uncles, aunts, classmates, Ellis catering staff, now looked at him not as a groom, but as a defendant. Naomi remained upright, not flinching beneath the chandelier's glare. In her hand, the tiny remote held more power than chains. "Cut it off, Naomi." Marcus hissed low, head tilted, smile fixed like a politician under fire. "This is a misunderstanding. You're embarrassing us. Think of your mother, your family." Naomi turned to Mama Ruth. The woman sat tall, tissue shredded in her hand, eyes glistening, searching for something to believe in. Naomi spoke softly, yet far-reaching. "Mother, today I am not ashamed. I am only choosing truth." The ballroom was silent. From a table near the stage, an uncle spoke, voice heavy with sorrow. "Marcus, are these your words?" No answer came, only Marcus's cracked smile. Naomi drew breath, pressed the button. From the speakers, the woman's syrupy yet cutting voice filled the air again. "Don't be clumsy, Marcus. Remember what you said. Ellis Catering belongs to me after tonight." The hall exploded. Women cried out, and an aunt slammed the table, shouting, "Lord, have mercy." Men hissed between their teeth. MC Andre trembled, his mic hitting the floor with a heavy thud, echoing like a judge's gavel. Naomi did not shake. She remembered her father's words. "You can't stop the waves, but you can stand steady when they come." Marcus exhaled hard, lowering his voice to her ear. "If you love me, stop this now. We can fix it privately. I'll explain everything. Don't ruin our day." Naomi lifted her face, unblinking. "You're right, this is our day, and I choose to begin it with truth." The remote's red light glowed again. This time, not just audio. The screen showed Marcus smirking, clinking champagne glasses with Vanessa. His voice rang across the room. "She thinks this is love. Really, it's just a lifetime meal ticket." A collective gasp surged, like 100 throats swallowing ice. A little girl in a flower dress whispered, "Mommy, did the groom lie?" Her mother pulled her close, staring at Marcus with unblinking eyes. MC Andre tried to recover. "Everyone, let's calm down. There must be an explanation." But his voice was weak. No one listened. Marcus spread his arms wide, as though giving a speech. "Don't believe this. It's edited. Naomi's been misled. We are happy this is our wedding. Do you want to destroy our happiness?" A man's voice cut from the corner. "We didn't destroy it. You did." Heads nodded all around. Naomi stepped closer to Marcus, her voice low but carrying. "You think I'll stay silent, sign papers, and watch Ellis Catering be sold off? You're wrong. My father taught me that love must come with protection. Tonight, I protect my name." Marcus tilted his head, face taut. "You'll regret this, Naomi. No man wants his wife to turn the wedding into a trial." Naomi gave no reply. She turned the mic to the room. "Family, friends, aunts, uncles, I owe you the truth, not in part, but whole. Tonight, I'll begin with what is clear. I am no one's meal ticket. Ellis Catering belongs to my family, and my heart no longer belongs to the man you just heard." Scattered claps broke out, spreading wider. Some sat still, eyes wet, mourning what they thought was a love story. But the air had changed from breathless waiting to witness. Marcus dropped his arms, his face pulled tight like strings. The last smile drained from him. Naomi felt a new tremor run through her spine, not fear, but the knowledge that the battle had only begun. The chandeliers still blazed, but the room had transformed. The wedding was no longer a wedding. It had become the community's courtroom, and Naomi, in her moonlit lace gown, was no longer just a bride. She was a witness, plaintiff, and the keeper of her future's key. The service hallway of Riverbend Grand was nothing like the ballroom splendor. The walls were painted a pale gray, patches peeling to reveal old cement. Harsh fluorescent lights cast blotches of uneven brightness on the tiled floor. The smell of cleaning fluid and cooking oil seeped through the kitchen doors. There was no place for a lace wedding gown, yet Naomi found herself there, 26 minutes before she stood in front of the whole ballroom. She had only wanted a moment of quiet to breathe. The Afrobeat, the chatter, the endless congratulations had pressed down on her chest like a stone. The smile she'd worn since the ceremony now ached at her lips, her lipstick dry and cracked. Naomi just wanted a few minutes alone to remember her father, Pastor Elijah Johnson, who once told her, "On your wedding day, keep a quiet space for your heart." She lifted her veil and stepped into the hallway, intending to lean against the cool wall for relief. But as she neared the corner, she heard footsteps and hushed voices. Naomi froze, then stepped back, pressing herself into the shadows. "I told you, baby." Marcus's voice drifted out gentle, confident, so familiar that Naomi's heart reacted instantly with its old warmth. But the words that followed slid into her ears like blades. "She believes me. This isn't love. This is a lifetime meal ticket." Naomi froze solid, Every cell in her body shrank. The air in the hallway thickened, and it was hard to breathe. A woman's voice answered, soft as velvet, sharp as glass. Just make the transfer before midnight. Her father's trust fund locks in for 30 days. You promised me, Marcus. Naomi recognized it at once. Vanessa King, the wedding planner's assistant, the one who had been everywhere for weeks, checking print orders, rearranging seating charts, smiling my queen whenever her eyes met Naomi's. Naomi had often felt a faint discomfort, but told herself it was just her personality. Now, hearing her voice here, she knew. It wasn't personality, it was a performance. Marcus laughed that laugh Naomi once thought charming. I promised. Don't worry. After tonight, Ellis Catering will be ours. Her mother adores me. And the paperwork, already mixed in with the thank you cards. Naomi pressed her back hard against the wall. Her hands shook so violently that her nails dug into silk. The chill of the cement cut through her gown. Vanessa chuckled lightly, like glass tapping against a ring. Don't slip, Marcus. Don't forget the warehouse contract. I want the money on Monday. I know. Don't be impatient. Marcus's tone was low, triumphant. Naomi bit her lip until blood came. Memories rushed her all at once the day Vanessa suggested switching banks for the honeymoon fund. Marcus insisting on personally handling the thank you cards, the florist calling to confirm the new billing address. Every detail snapped together into a grim picture. Her heart pounded, her ears buzzed. She wanted to step out, to scream in Marcus's face, but her feet felt glued to the floor. Another voice rose inside her, the voice she had inherited from her father. Do not throw your bare hands into the storm. Wait. Watch. Remember. Naomi shut her eyes, inhaled deeply, letting the hallway's chill calm her. She listened. Vanessa's tone softened to honey. Do you ever feel guilty? Naomi looked so sweet. Pastor's daughter. Marcus's laugh was quieter, but Naomi heard every word. Guilt doesn't pay bills, baby. Sweetness is nice, but bills are real. The words poured like fire into Naomi's chest. Her body trembled. It felt like her skin wanted to tear from her bones for a moment. The click of Vanessa's heels echoed on tile, then stopped. Naomi caught a glimpse through the light strip, Marcus leaning against the wall, a woman's red, manicured hand resting on his lapel. She jerked back into the shadows, spine slamming the wall, breath ragged, blood roaring in her ears. You're the best, Vanessa whispered. But no mistakes. Tonight is the key. Naomi didn't hear the rest. She only knew she had to stand, walk back into the ballroom, fix her lipstick, and smile for the cameras. But inside her, a fracture had opened. Through that crack, the cold light of truth poured in. She stayed pressed against the wall long after the echo of Vanessa's heels faded. The hallway returned to silence, just the hum of ventilation and the stale scent of grease. Naomi felt her knees buckle, barely holding her up. Her hand clutched at the lace, wrinkling it. In her mind, one phrase repeated, "This can't be. This can't be." But truth stood undeniable. Marcus, the man she had just vowed to love before the pastor had been plotting to deceive her. Not weakness, not a mistake. A plan, calculated, prepared. Naomi bent forward, forehead to the wall's cold surface. Tears pressed behind her eyes, but she swallowed them back. Not here, not now. She remembered her father's words. Daughter, tears are seeds, but if you sow them on dry ground, they will be wasted. Save them until the soil is ready. She wiped her face and lifted her head. A catering worker, carrying a fruit tray, suddenly stepped out from the cold storage. He startled at the sight of Naomi in her gown. Naomi managed a faint smile, a slight nod, as if to say, "I'm just lost." The worker smiled awkwardly and passed, asking nothing. When the hall was empty again, Naomi straightened her veil and pulled a small mirror from her gown pocket. Her lipstick had smudged. She reapplied with mechanical strokes. Her hands trembled, but her face stayed composed. The mirror reflected reddened eyes. She blinked quickly, covering them with a calm mask. A plan began forming in her mind. Since childhood, Naomi had watched her father build his church brick by brick. He had told her, "Justice is a building, not a fire. If you want it to stand, You must wait. That memory steadied her, transforming her fury into resolve. She remembered Harold Whittaker, the old lawyer with his slow, story-like voice. 3 days ago, he had helped her and Mama Ruth lock Ellis Catering into a trust. Naomi clung to that fact like a lifeline. At least her father's work would not fall easily into Marcus's hands. Naomi glanced down at her calla lily bouquet. Hidden among the white blossoms was the small remote. She had thought she might never need it. Now it was her weapon. Stay calm, Naomi. Not for revenge, for protection. She drew one last steadying breath, then walked back toward the ballroom. The chandelier light spilled out from afar, another world entirely from the cold hallway. Afrobeat throbbed again. Laughter rang. Glasses clinked, as if no betrayal lurked nearby. Naomi stepped through the door. For a moment, it felt like she was walking onto a stage. Everything in the hallway would sound unbelievable without proof, but she had evidence. And tonight, she would make the whole room hear it. Janelle immediately spotted her, hurried over, whispering, "You okay?" Naomi nodded slightly, saying nothing more. Janelle narrowed her eyes but understood. Something was coming. Naomi smiled at a few guests, adjusted her veil, and stepped onto the photo stage. Cameras flashed, capturing the image of a radiant bride. But behind the makeup and lights, a flame had already caught inside her. In that flower and wine-filled room, only Naomi knew. Half an hour ago, love had died in a cold hallway. And now, the truth was waiting to burst into the open. In the final days before the wedding, Naomi had felt a faint unease, like a chair that looked sturdy but hid a crack beneath the varnish. Back then, she still trusted Marcus, but now, memories returned in shards, piecing together into a picture too clear, too painful. Vanessa King had appeared to many vendors as a savior. Quick, efficient, always smiling with crimson lips, her voice so smooth she could charm even the most demanding clients. "My queen," she would call Naomi every time they met, as if it were affection. Naomi would usually smile awkwardly, thinking it was just a playful quirk. But now, recalling the cold hallway of Riverbend Grand, Naomi understood. Every smile had been a velvet-covered needle. Once, the florist had called Naomi, worry in her voice. "Miss Naomi, I got an email from the planner's assistant. She said I should change the payment account to a new one. I wanted to confirm with you." Naomi had frowned, answering at once, "No, don't change. Keep it as agreed." The florist was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "I thought so. I've been doing this for years. When I see sudden changes, I ask again. Good thing you confirmed." Naomi had hung up with a flicker of suspicion, but when she told Marcus, he had only smiled, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Babe, maybe the planner just wanted convenience. You worry too much." He said it with the smile that had once carried her through weary days, and Naomi had let the doubt slip away. Another time, Vanessa had knocked on Naomi's door at night, carrying a bundle of papers. "Here are the printed thank you cards and the guest book for people to sign. I asked Marcus to take them, it'll save time tomorrow." Naomi had been surprised, but Marcus quickly took them, turning to her with a reassuring grin. "Don't worry, I'll keep them safe." She had looked at her fiancé, seen eagerness in his face, and nodded. Who could have guessed that was the day he slipped Ellis Catering's transfer documents into the stack? Remembering it now, Naomi felt her chest tighten like an invisible hand was squeezing her heart. Each detail, once insignificant, had become proof of a calculated scheme, and the honeymoon fund. Vanessa had suggested it with a tone of concern. "Naomi, there's a new bank running a promotion. If you set up the honeymoon fund there, guests will find it easier to send gifts, and the interest is higher too." Naomi had hesitated, saying she would think about it. Then Marcus had urged her, "Babe, sounds reasonable. Less hassle for guests. You know I only want the best for you." Naomi had smiled then, grateful for a man who seemed so thoughtful. She hadn't known it was bait. Even Terry, Marcus's best friend, had once sent the wrong text. Naomi had opened it and found a screenshot of a group chat she wasn't part of. Marcus had snatched the phone back, laughing. "Oops, wrong message. Just the guys joking." Naomi had believed him. Now, all of it aligned into a chain. Vanessa the assistant with blood-red nails, Marcus the man with the billboard smile, Terry the friend who never made eye contact. They were the spider's web, weaving threads around Naomi, waiting to pull tight. Naomi stood in the corner of the ballroom, watching guests laugh and chatter, her heart heavy. They had no idea behind the fresh flowers and dazzling lights lay forged papers and hidden accounts. She heard her father's voice in memory. Look at the smallest things. A thief doesn't always break the door. Sometimes he changes the lock. That was precisely what Marcus and Vanessa had done. No noise, no smashing, just a quiet replacement of locks. Naomi clutched her bouquet tighter. The small remote seemed to whisper among the pure white blossoms. They changed the locks, but you hold the key. She sat at the edge of a satin-draped chair in the ballroom's corner. Guests still chatted merrily. Unaware, she sat in a storm of memories, each fragment like a small blade turning inside her. She remembered 2 weeks ago, when Vanessa had called in a rush. "Naomi, I just got a notice from the shipping company. They say the invoice hasn't been paid yet, and we need to settle it to keep the delivery date. I can pay it from the backup account Marcus approved, and send you the receipt later, okay?" Naomi had been confused. Vanessa babbled, confidently, making doubt difficult. But instinct whispered to her, and she said, "No need. I'll check myself." Vanessa had paused, then laughed lightly. "You're very careful. I just wanted to help." After hanging up, Naomi still felt uneasy. She had called the shipping company directly. Their reply calmed her then. "Your invoice is already paid in full." Naomi had sighed in relief, thinking herself paranoid. But now, she shivered no mistake. It was a test. Another evening, Naomi had seen Vanessa in the parking lot. She carried a thick envelope tucked into her planner. When Vanessa noticed Naomi, she quickly hid it, smiling brightly. "Just collecting tip money for the staff, so it's easier later." Naomi had nodded without asking. Now she knew that envelope was surely tied to the warehouse deal she'd overheard in the hallway. What Naomi remembered most was a night when Marcus had sat with her in the living room, spreading note cards as he discussed Ellis Catering's expansion. His voice was steady, his eyes serious like a man sharing a dream. "Babe, you should aim for corporate clients. Weddings are emotional, but companies bring steady work. I'll help you find contacts." Naomi had been moved then, believing she'd found a partner in her vision. She hadn't known he had memorized details to redraw the map for himself. Bitterness surged, but along with it came something else. Strength. Because Naomi had prepared, too. Those slight suspicions had pushed her to seek Harold Whittaker. That patience had led her to sign protective papers before the wedding, and the hallway's revelation only confirmed what she already feared. Naomi lifted her head, gazing around the ballroom. Guests ate, drank, and laughed. Chandeliers blazed overhead. Afrobeat throbbed again after a brief pause. No one knew that a web of deceit had been woven in this glittering room, waiting to tighten after tonight. But Naomi was no longer prey. She knew well. They had prepared a deception, but she had prepared an escape. Her fingers brushed the bouquet, finding the remote button. Cold, square, like a stone in a climber's hand. She told herself, "You prepared carefully, but so did I, and tonight we'll see whose preparation holds." She rose, smiling at a few friends who passed by, and returned to the sweetheart table. No one saw the storm behind her smile. Only Janelle, watching from across the room, caught her cousin's eyes and slightly nodded. She knew Naomi was ready. 3 nights before the wedding, Naomi sat in the small office of attorney Harold Whittaker. The office was inside an old red-brick building downtown, beside a cafe where men gathered after work to play dominoes. The walls were lined with framed certificates and black and white photos of big cases Harold had tried in his youth. The air carried the scent of aged wood and printed paper, reminding Naomi of libraries she had visited with her father as a child. Harold sat across from her, his polka-dot bow tie slightly askew, glasses slipping down his nose. He carefully turned the thick pages of a file. "Naomi, you want me to explain this again in plain language, right?" Naomi nodded. "Yes, Uncle Harold. Pretend I'm only 9 years old." He smiled. His voice was deep, steady, deliberate. "All right, here's the thing. Your father's company, Ellis Catering, sits in a family trust. That means no one outside the named beneficiaries can touch it. But if additional papers exist, say, transfers through marriage, they could create loopholes. You follow? Naomi propped her chin in her hand, nodding, her eyes tight. So, if Marcus has some papers, he could slip his hand in. Harold tilted his head. If you signed without reading carefully. Yes. It has happened before. Which is why. He flipped to a new page. A crisp sheet, bold letters. Amendment to Family Trust. We'll file this document. It states, no matter your marital status, Ellis Catering belongs only to Naomi Johnson-Ellis and your mother, Mama Ruth, to no one else. Naomi inhaled sharply. A stone dropped inside her heart, leaving a heavy and relieved space. Harold slid the pen across the desk. Sign here, date here, and remember, this goes on record today. A copy will be stored at the county office. Naomi's fingers trembled as she signed, but the lines steadied. Mama Ruth sat beside her, one hand on her daughter's back, whispering silent prayers. Naomi exhaled, as if surfacing from deep water, when she set the pen down. Harold smiled kindly. Good. Whatever anyone brings you, it's nothing but scrap paper. Naomi looked at him, eyes glowing. Thank you, Uncle Harold. I don't know if I'll ever need it, but I can breathe knowing it's there. He tilted his head, voice like a storyteller. Your father once told me, Harold, I built my church with bricks, but I'm raising my daughter with law. I think he was preparing you for this day. Naomi smiled faintly, eyes wet. The next morning, she went one step further. At a small cafe near home, Naomi opened her folder and pulled out another contract, a prenuptial agreement, but not the one Marcus had given her. This was the version she and Harold had rewritten. She remembered perfectly the evening Marcus shoved the papers at her, just days before the wedding. Babe, sign this, just routine. You trust me, right? He had babbled, leaving no time for questions. Naomi had been ready to sign, but instinct had stopped her. She had taken it straight to Harold. And now, Harold had drafted a new version. Every clause spelled out, Ellis Catering excluded from marital sharing, all inheritance funds safeguarded. Naomi read line by line, lips pressed tight. If this isn't true love, this agreement is offense. If it is love, then no one fears offense. She signed. Again, her hand shook, but her chest felt lighter. When she left the cafe, the Houston sun drenched the street in heavy gold. Naomi looked at strangers walking by, at children laughing in front of a shop, and told herself, I cannot let my parents, I cannot let myself become someone's game. 2 days before the wedding, Naomi woke in the hotel room she shared with her cousin Janelle Brooks, chosen for convenience. Morning light streamed through the curtains, falling across her wedding gown, which hung carefully on its wooden stand. Naomi sat up, rubbing her face, her light and heavy heart. She had done what she could trust, prenup, quiet preparations. But she knew she could not rest easy until everything was over. Janelle walked in from the balcony, coffee in hand, studying her cousin's face. You didn't sleep well, did you? Naomi smiled faintly. You can tell. You always think you hide it well, but your eyes say different. Naomi was quiet for a moment, then whispered, Janelle, if one day you discovered the person beside you wasn't true, what would you do? Janelle frowned, sat down next to her. I'd cry one night. Then the next morning, I'd find a way to keep what's mine. Don't you remember what your dad said? Love can fade, but the work you've built with sweat cannot fade with it. Naomi looked at Janelle, feeling her cousin's words strengthen her. Naomi and Mama Ruth went to New Hope Baptist in 3rd Ward that afternoon. Pastor Elijah was gone, but Naomi still felt him in the old brick walls. The new pastor, a short gentleman, welcomed them, listening as Naomi shared. After prayer, Naomi hesitated, then said, I have a request. On the wedding day, please hold the marriage license. Please don't sign it yet. Only after the ceremony, I will decide. The pastor looked surprised, then nodded slowly. You want time to be certain. I understand. I will do as you ask. Mama Ruth gripped Naomi's hand tightly, her eyes shimmering with worry and pride. She whispered, "Your father must be smiling somewhere. He always believed his daughter was never small." The night before the wedding, Naomi sat alone at the hotel window. Street lights reflected in puddles from the rain. Inside her, sorrow blended with resolve. She remembered her father, hunched over his ledger, counting catering orders. He had once told her, "People may love you, then leave you, but the kitchen, the oven, and loyal customers will stay if you hold steady." Naomi opened a small velvet box. Inside lay a USB recording, the remote hidden in her bouquet, and a copy of the trust papers, 3 tiny objects, but to her, 3 keys. She closed the box, whispering, "Tomorrow, if all goes smoothly, I might never need these. But if the waves rise, I already have my boat." Leaning back in the chair, Naomi shut her eyes. The last raindrops tapped against the awning outside. In her brief sleep, she dreamed of her father in the kitchen, ladle in hand, smiling. "Daughter, you've learned, not just how to cook, but how to keep the fire." The next morning, as the first sunlight spilled into the room, Naomi woke with calm in her chest. The wedding would go on, Marcus would stand beside her, and the hall would be filled with joy. But she had prepared, not for revenge, only for protection. And that preparation, more than makeup or lace, was her actual armor for the day. The air inside Riverbend Grand's ballroom felt stripped of oxygen. After Naomi pressed the remote the first time and Marcus's voice echoed through the speakers, the wedding's joy collapsed. Afrobeat went silent, laughter cut off. What remained was the sound of hurried breathing and the sharp clink of a spoon striking glass. Marcus tried to hold his smile, but the corners of his mouth twitched. He stepped half a pace forward, arms spread like a politician trying to salvage his audience. "Everyone, this is just an edit. We men joke around, don't we?" An aunt in a golden dress shook her head, her voice cracking like a whip. "A joke? You call your wife a lifetime meal ticket?" The room was stone silent. Naomi stood in the light, mic in hand. She didn't look at Marcus. She looked at the room, Mama Ruth twisting a shredded tissue, Janelle Brooks poised as if ready to rush to her cousin's side, Andre the MC drenched in sweat, gripping a mic that seemed to weigh twice as much. Naomi lifted the remote and pressed again. The screen behind Marcus lit up. Hallway footage appeared. Marcus leaning against a wall, Vanessa King in her red dress standing before him, red nails resting on his lapel. Vanessa's voice filled the room, sweet yet sharp. "Don't be clumsy, Marcus. Remember what you said. Ellis Catering belongs to me after tonight." The hall exploded. A cry of "Lord, have mercy," rang out. A man slammed the table, spilling wine. A bridesmaid covered her mouth, eyes wide. The celebration instantly turned into a trial, and Marcus was the accused. Marcus staggered, forcing himself upright. He turned to Naomi, his voice strained. "Naomi, you're insane. This is our wedding day." Naomi lifted her chin. Her voice was not loud, but each word landed clearly. "No, Marcus. This is the day truth is heard. Understand? Maybe we should take a break and move on to the cake cutting." A voice boomed from the guest seats. "No, we need to hear it all." Naomi turned. It was Uncle Raymond, who had flown from New York on his feet, face red with anger. He pointed straight at Marcus. "How long have you been lying to this family?" Marcus forced a laugh, brittle. He glanced around for support, but eyes turned away or glared. Only Vanessa, in the corner, kept her composure. Naomi drew a deep breath and spoke slowly. "If what you hear hurts, breathe deep. My father said, the truth is medicine, bitter, but it heals." She pressed the button again. Marcus's and Vanessa's voices spilled from the speakers, sharp and undeniable. Meal ticket. Transfer before midnight. Documents in the thank you box. No one laughed. No one called it joking. The entire hall froze, then erupted. An aunt cried, "Heavens above!" An uncle hissed, "Bastard!" A child began to wail. Naomi did not flinch. Her hand gripped the bouquet, fingers brushing the remote's cold, square edge. Her lipstick was still flawless, but her eyes burned with a new fire. Resolve. Marcus stepped forward, his shoe on wood echoing hollow. Out of place in the courtroom, the ballroom had become. He raised his hands, pleading, defending. Please, everyone, listen. This is fake. Naomi misunderstood. You all know work exhausts people. Pressure builds. Sometimes men say things they shouldn't. But I love her. That's the truth. He stared into Naomi's eyes, forcing tenderness into his gaze, the tenderness that had once made her heart yield. But Naomi's eyes no longer reflected that man. She tilted her head, calm. If I misunderstood, explain why Ellis Catering's transfer papers were in the thank you box. Explain why I heard you say, "Tonight is the key." Marcus opened his mouth, but no sound came. His face flushed, then drained pale. From a guest table, a woman's voice rang out. "I gave money as a gift, and you plan to use it for fraud?" The whole table echoed, "That's right." A wave of murmurs surged. People glanced at one another, at Naomi, at Marcus, like jurors deciding a verdict. Naomi raised the mic higher, her voice amplified, steady. "Family, friends, colleagues, I owe you the truth. I owe it to my father. I owe it to myself. And the truth is, this man did not come to me for love. He came for the name Ellis. My father built the kitchen with sweat. For the legacy, my mother guarded it with her worn hands. And tonight, in this very room, I choose to say no." Applause broke out, scattered, but strong. Then more joined, until it rolled into a great rhythm. Some guests wept not from sorrow, but pride. Marcus stomped, shouting, "Enough! This is my wedding day. No one has the right to ruin it." Uncle Raymond stepped forward, his voice thunderous. "This day isn't yours, Marcus. This is Naomi's day, and she just chose to keep herself whole." Marcus panted, eyes darting wildly. He searched for Vanessa, but she sat distant, cold, detached. Naomi stepped forward too, facing him directly. Her voice was quiet, but the whole room heard. "You thought I was a meal ticket. But from now on, remember this. I am the gatekeeper." Thunderous applause. MC Andre stood frozen, his mic slipping from his hand again. Mama Ruth sobbed, but this time with release. Janelle covered her mouth, eyes ablaze. Naomi lowered the mic and lifted her head high. She knew. The battle was not finished, but she had passed the most critical threshold, the door of silence. And once a woman chooses truth over fear, nothing can drag her back. The applause had barely faded when the ballroom doors burst open. The sound cracked like thunder, snapping every head around. A woman strode in, hair plastered with rain, coat speckled with water. She clutched a wrinkled bundle of paper in her hands, held tight as if they were her last hands. Under the chandeliers, her face was not embarrassed but burning with fury. Her voice rang out, ragged, yet clear. "Don't sign anything. He's already married to me." The room is split into two. Gasps, whispers, spoons clattering onto plates. Naomi froze, bouquet in hand, heart pounding. Marcus's face drained under the stark white lights. The woman walked straight into the center, lifting the papers high. "My name is Alicia Moore. Marcus Reed and I registered our marriage last June. Here's the certificate. He is my legal husband." Marcus's eyes went wide. He staggered half a step back, then tried to recover, forcing a crooked smile. "Don't believe her. She's insane. I've never—" Alicia cut in, her voice slicing. "Don't you dare deny it. This is a Fulton County marriage license. Signed. Sealed. I'm not here to ruin a wedding. I'm here to warn." The ballroom erupted. Every eye drilled into Marcus. Voices spilled over. "Oh my God. Bigamy? What kind of sham is this?" Mama Ruth nearly collapsed into her seat, Janelle rushing to hold her up. Her hands shook, her eyes locked on Marcus as though he were a stranger. Naomi stood with astonishing composure. She stepped forward, meeting Alicia's gaze. "Sister, come stand with me." Alicia lifted her head, eyes swollen, and walked to Naomi's side. One woman in a glowing lace gown and one in a rain-soaked coat faced the same man. Marcus flailed. "Naomi, you don't believe her, do you? You know me. This is some trick to destroy." Naomi's voice cut him off, low but final. "Marcus, I saw the video of you and Vanessa. I heard you speak about my inheritance. And now, standing here is your legal wife. I don't need to believe anyone else. Truth is enough. A ripple of shock spread. Andre the MC stood slack-jawed. Guests surged closer, peering at the certificate. An older man in a suit called out, "It's got a county seal. No forgery here." Naomi drew breath, lifting the mic to the hall. "Family, friends, this is the final proof. This man didn't just deceive me. He deceived the law. And tonight, on the night he planned to steal my legacy, truth has walked through the door itself." Silence fell heavy, absolute, like a verdict already read. Alicia stood beside Naomi, breath ragged, clutching the marriage papers like an unhealed wound. Under the chandeliers, her face was not that of a saboteur, but of a woman silenced too long, now forced to shout. Naomi turned and nodded to her. No words were needed. Alicia's truth spoke loud enough. Marcus looked at them both, mouth opening and shutting, searching for another role to play. He softened his tone, shifting into faux tenderness. "Alicia, darling, we talked about this. We ended things. You know that. You're just angry I moved on with Naomi." Alicia gave a bitter laugh, the laugh of a woman once in love, now betrayed. "Ended things. Marcus, you left my house with my car, maxed my credit cards, and vanished. There's no divorce decree. I'm still paying off the debt you left. Don't stand here and call that ending things." The murmurs rose again. A woman whispered to her friend, "He ever dumped debt on her." The other hissed, "Not ex-wife, still wife. On paper, still his." Naomi felt something loosen inside her, like Alicia's truth had broken the last chain. Yet pain cut deeper, too. Marcus hadn't only lied to her, he carried a trail of wreckage behind him. She raised the mic, her tone calm but carrying. "Marcus, you said you loved me. But what kind of love builds on lies, on a marriage that never ended? My father taught, when someone shows you their true face, don't paint over it just to lull yourself. Tonight, I choose to see it." Marcus's shout cracked with desperation. "Naomi, please, I did all this for us to give us a better start. I can explain everything." Naomi turned from him, facing Alicia instead. She laid a hand gently on the soaked woman's shoulder, speaking softly but amplified. "You've carried this alone too long. Tonight, you are not alone." Alicia shuddered, tears spilling. Her sob broke across the hall, not weak, but like a tolling bell, announcing Marcus's game was finished. The ballroom erupted again. Accusations, anger, some guests storming out, unable to bear the shame for the bride. Mama Ruth bowed her head, but this time it was not pain, it was release, seeing her daughter stand in defense of herself. Marcus was cornered. His eyes darted, wild at Alicia, then Naomi, like a trapped animal. But there was no exit left. Naomi lifted her head, her voice solemn, clear, delivering her own verdict. "Marcus Reed, you came here to take, not to give. You came to hide, not to live in truth. And tonight, before my family, my friends, and your lawful wife, I declare, I do not belong to your deception." Applause roared like waves, long and thunderous, drowning out Marcus's last attempts to resist. Alicia stood beside Naomi, exhaling, no longer alone, for the first time in months. In that ballroom, among flowers and wine, truth claimed its ground. And Marcus, the man who once smirked in a secret hallway, was now only a trembling shadow under the light. As the applause ebbed, the air in the ballroom still thrummed tight as wire. Naomi stood beside Alicia, two women like twin pillars against a grand deception. Marcus hung his head, lips moving but failing to form words strong enough to matter. But Naomi knew. Truth was not finished. Her instincts, which had saved her from the marriage trap, warned her of another layer of shadow lurking behind the flowers and chandeliers. Her gaze locked on Vanessa King, the red-dressed assistant sitting at the far end. Her crimson smile hadn't faltered, but in her eyes Naomi saw it, a cold calculation that never wavered. Marcus might be reckless greed. Vanessa was patient design. Just then, the chandeliers flickered. Guests gasped, heads tilting upward. The DJ fumbled at his board, muttering. Somebody touched the breaker. Naomi's chest tightened. Her hand gripped the bouquet, and the hidden remote was a stone in her palm. She glanced at Janelle, eyes signaling. Janelle gave a tiny nod, slipping quietly toward the exit. The lights steadied again, but the atmosphere had shifted. Guests stood, some edging for the doors. Mama Ruth called out, "Please stay. Give us a little more time." Naomi drew a breath, raised the mic. "Some of you think the truth is finished. I fear it isn't. I believe this plot goes beyond Marcus." A stir rippled. Vanessa sat straighter, eyes glittering with ice, her smile still fixed. Naomi pressed the remote. On the screen, security footage. The gift box is being switched. A slender hand with red-painted nails slid papers beneath the stack. The room burst. Voices rose. "Vanessa!" Vanessa arched a brow, unshaken. She rose slowly, striding toward the center, her red dress bleeding light. "Yes, me. And what of it? I did my job. Marcus chose his path." Her voice was smooth, flawless. Naomi held her ground. "You didn't just do a job. You colluded to steal my family's legacy. You called me your queen to dull my guard. But I'm no longer the queen in your game." Vanessa laughed, her voice echoing. "Naomi, you think you've won? You can humiliate Marcus, sure. But paperwork, accounts, legal loopholes, you think you've sealed them all?" The hall sank into tense silence. Naomi's skin prickled, but her voice was steady. "If you have another move, show it. I'm ready." Vanessa tilted her head, eyes flashing venom. "Oh, you'll see. This light isn't bright enough yet. Wait until the real darkness falls, then you'll know who holds power." Her words barely ended when the ballroom plunged into black. The breaker cut again. Screams shot up. Darkness swallowed the hall, save for the faint red glow of emergency lights on panicked faces. A glass shattered. Feet scrambled. A child wailed. Naomi stood still. She inhaled deeply, focusing on sound, not sight. She caught the quick click of heels darting toward the side door. "Vanessa." "Janelle." Naomi called low. From the corner, Janelle understood instantly. She pushed through guests, moving fast toward the exit. Metal groaned as a door yanked open, then slammed shut. A blade of light vanished. The chandeliers blinked back on after 10 dragging seconds. Chaos lay everywhere, tables askew, guests shaken. Vanessa was gone. Marcus stood pale, drenched in sweat. Alicia folded her arms, staring at him with both pity and rage. Mama Ruth clutched her chest, steadying herself against a chair. Naomi lifted the mic. Her voice cut through the disorder. "Please, stay calm. This is not just a love scam. It is a financial conspiracy, and the one pulling strings has just fled." Whispers swelled. "Where's Vanessa going? To hide, or to erase the trail?" Naomi's gaze fixed on Marcus. She spoke slowly, every word weighted. "You may stay silent, but silence only proves truth. Everyone here has seen enough." Marcus let out a jagged laugh. "You think you've won? Vanessa holds cards. She can erase everything. One light off, one forged signature, and Ellis Catering burns to ash." Naomi didn't blink. Her reply came cold. "You forget what my father taught. In the dark, carry a flashlight, but always keep your matches dry. I've kept mine, and no one will blow them out." Scattered applause rose, then grew. Guests leaned toward her, aligning with her, though unsure of Vanessa's scheme. Andre, the MC, trembling but resolute, finally spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, please sit. The police have been called. Tonight, everything will be brought to light." Naomi scanned the room, then turned to the camera Janelle had set from the start. She knew. Everything was recorded. Vanessa might have escaped, but the truth could not be buried. To Naomi, darkness was no longer the enemy. It was only the backdrop that made truth blaze brighter. When the Houston police entered the ballroom, the chaos began to settle. 2 officers in dark blue uniforms scanned the crowd with sharp, steady eyes. One of them, Officer Ramirez, spoke with firm authority. "Everyone, remain in place. We've received a report of fraud and forgery. We'll be taking statements here and now." Naomi drew a deep breath. The moment had come. Everything she had prepared, Harold Whitaker's paperwork, the hidden remote in her bouquet, led to this. She walked to the gift box table. The white wooden box, tied with silver ribbon, had been a symbol of goodwill all night, filled with envelopes of blessings. But Naomi knew. Inside lay something heavier than cash. Proof. She tapped the lid. The hollow sound carried through the silent room. Her eyes locked on Marcus. You thought you hid it well, but you forgot every object carries weight, and this box weighed too much. Marcus trembled, his eyes blinking rapidly. Naomi, you don't know what you're... Naomi cut him off. I know exactly. And now, so will everyone. She signaled to Officer Ramirez. He nodded, slipped on gloves, and carefully opened the box. On top lay the wedding envelopes, inked with blessings, but beneath them sat a blue folder, neatly tucked. The crowd inhaled as one. Ramirez opened it. On the first page, bold letters glared under the chandelier. Assignment of interest. Ellis Catering. Outrage detonated. My God, he tried to steal her father's company. Unbelievable. Mama Ruth broke into sobs. Janelle wrapped an arm around her, eyes locked on the file. Alicia nodded sharply, as if her own suffering had finally been acknowledged. Naomi did not cry. Her voice rang like steel. Here is the proof. Marcus Reed and Vanessa King forged transfer contracts, hidden in the gift box, to legitimize their signatures. But I prepared. Ellis Catering is locked in trust. These papers are trash. Applause erupted furious, hammering, like a judge's gavel. Marcus stood stunned, mouth open but voiceless, his face cracking like a mask shattering under hundreds of stares. Officer Ramirez flipped page by page, frowning. Below the bold legal print, scrawled in jagged ink, was a forged name, Naomi Johnson-Ellis. He looked up, his voice sharp. This signature doesn't match county records. This is forgery. Gasps rippled. Guests glared at Marcus as if their eyes could burn him. Naomi stepped forward, the light catching her calm face. Marcus, do you still call this a joke? Marcus's hands shook, a crooked laugh escaping. He turned toward Vanessa's seat, but it was empty. The room realized at once. She had vanished in the blackout. Naomi's gaze held him. See? Your partner already fled. You're alone. Mama Ruth rose, voice trembling but fierce. Marcus, my family gave you food, gave you love, and you dared gamble with my husband's sweat? Marcus stumbled back, stammering, I didn't. Alicia thrust her marriage papers forward. You didn't just cheat Naomi. You abandoned your lawful wife to play this con. Tell me, Marcus, how many women do you plan to marry for money? The room roared. Chairs scraped. Men surged as if ready to grab him. Officer Ramirez raised a hand, commanding, calm down. All of this is evidence. Forgery and attempted theft will be prosecuted. Naomi turned to the guests, lifted the mic. Her voice was low but carried to every corner. Thank you for witnessing. Tonight, the gift box held more than blessings. It held the truth, and truth can't be hidden anymore. Applause rang, not polished, but raw, sincere. Some wept, others sighed heavily, knowing this was not just a ruined wedding. It was a scar-deep lesson about greed and a woman forced to build walls to protect her legacy. Marcus collapsed into a chair, head buried in his hands. The chandelier cast shadows across the warped, lonely, broken wood floor. Naomi tightened her grip on the bouquet. She knew the fight wasn't over. Vanessa was free out there, and the conspiracy would not end tonight. But at least, the wedding's gift box had become a reversed Pandora's box, not unleashing curses, but breaking open light. The murmurs in the ballroom had barely settled when the chandeliers flickered, then cut out. Darkness swallowed the room, thick and absolute, leaving only the faint red glow of exit lights along the walls. Guests screamed. Chairs toppled, glass shattered, children wailed. In the dark, every sound doubled, the ballroom becoming a cavern of fear. Naomi stayed steady. Her hand clenched the bouquet, fingers pressed against the cold square of the hidden remote. She couldn't see, but her ears caught every shift, the sharp staccato of high heels pounding toward the side door. Vanessa, Janelle, Naomi called, her voice low but cutting. From the left came the reply. Quick and sure, I see her. A scrape across the floor, then the screech of a metal door torn open. Night wind rushed in, then slammed shut. Janelle's shout cut through the dark. She's gone. Naomi's teeth clenched, her pulse racing. Vanessa had planned this. Darkness was her ally. Emergency lights flickered on, casting pale yellow streaks across the chaos. Tablecloths askew, crystal shards glittering on the floor. Mothers rocking, crying children. Officer Ramirez swept his flashlight across the room, his voice commanding, "Everyone, stay put. We have control of the situation." Naomi drew in a long breath, then spoke into the mic, now powered by backup. "Family, don't panic. This isn't an accident. This is the next move in the plot." The crowd rippled with unease. They understood now Vanessa wasn't finished. Naomi's eyes found Mama Ruth's worried stare, Alicia's furious glare, and Janelle's steady gaze. Anchors. She couldn't falter. Her father's words rose in memory. "Darkness is only strong when you fear it. Stand firm, and it becomes nothing but a backdrop for light." She gripped the bouquet tighter, whispering to herself, "Vanessa can run, but I won't let the dark hide the truth." Sirens wailed, growing louder. Blue and red lights flashed through the ballroom's glass doors. More officers stormed in with high-powered flashlights, beams slicing every corner. But Vanessa was gone. Naomi stepped down from the dais, her gown brushing against the dirty floor. She went to Ramirez. She ran through the side exit, toward the lot. Ramirez nodded, signaling to his team. "Sweep the perimeter. Seal every exit. No one leaves." Janelle rushed to Naomi, breath ragged but eyes clear. "I saw the red flash of her dress. She had a pickup, grey sedan. Last 3 digits on the plate, 317. Naomi squeezed her hand, whispering, "That's enough. You did more than enough. Let the police handle the rest." But inside, Naomi knew. Vanessa never ran without a backup plan. Outside, the parking lot glistened with fresh rain. Tire tracks stretched toward the gates. A voice over the radio confirmed, "Car left about 5 minutes ago, headed toward the freeway." Naomi stood at the threshold, night wind biting through her lace. Vanessa's smile lingered in her mind, her last words echoing, "This light isn't bright enough yet." Naomi shivered, then lifted her chin. The battle was no longer confined to the ballroom. It had spilled into the city, into ledgers, accounts, legal loopholes Vanessa still held. When Naomi re-entered the room, Mama Ruth sat clasping her hands, eyes never leaving her daughter. Alicia stood beside her, silent but shielding like armor. Marcus slumped in a corner under police watch, head bowed, stripped of arrogance. Naomi retook the mic, her voice steady, filling the fractured hall. "Family, tonight we didn't just witness a broken wedding. We witnessed how darkness tries to steal trust and how light rises to confront it. Vanessa can run, but she cannot erase the truth. We will go on." Applause thundered, this time firm, unified. Not a celebration, but a declaration. Naomi looked down at her bouquet. Nestled among the white calla lilies, the remote remained cold, steady a reminder. The game isn't over, but I'm ready. And in Naomi's eyes, after the night's shadow, the light burned brighter than ever. When order was tentatively restored in the ballroom, the clock neared midnight. A wedding that should have ended in joy had dissolved into exhaustion, outrage, and disbelief. Yet in the midst of it, Naomi stood tall, her gown blazing beneath the lights, as if daring the darkness that had tried to consume her. Officer Ramirez approached, his voice firm. "We'll take all documents from the gift box as evidence. Marcus Reed will be held on charges of forgery and attempted asset theft. As for Vanessa King, an emergency alert is out. Patrol units are pursuing her now." Naomi nodded, her voice calm but unyielding. "Thank you. But before I leave, I have something to say to everyone here." She turned to face the crowd, hundreds of eyes, some family, some friends, some colleagues, others strangers who had only known her through Marcus. They were all silent, waiting for the bride to speak. Naomi raised the mic. Her voice rang through the hall, steady and clear. "I walked into this night intending to become a wife. I walk out of it intending to remain myself. Marcus came to me not for love, but for greed. Vanessa called me my queen only to cover her scheme. They tried to turn this wedding into a theft, but I said no. Applause began scattered, then growing louder. Naomi pressed on. I know some of you may feel shame on my behalf, but understand, shame does not belong to the deceived. It belongs to the deceiver. If you've ever loved the wrong person, ever trusted the wrong soul, remember this is not your fault. Mama Ruth rose, tears streaming, lifting her hand. Amen. Naomi met her mother's eyes, then Alicia's, the woman beside her, trembling yet strong. They nodded to each other. A silent alliance was born in the wreckage of the night. Naomi inhaled, then declared, tomorrow, every envelope in this gift box will not go into a honeymoon account. Instead, it will be placed into a fund named for my father, Pastor Elijah Johnson, to support young chefs starting their journeys. Because love may betray, but work, sweat, and dreams will not. The hall erupted in thunderous applause. Some guests wept. Aunts in golden gowns nodded fiercely. Uncles in suits clasped hands. They knew Naomi had turned humiliation into a vow, and in that moment, Naomi felt her father's presence smiling gently somewhere, ladle in hand, as he once had when cooking for the congregation. Applause poured down like rain on a metal roof, long and insistent. Naomi stood still, letting the sound wash over her, letting the faith of others seep into her bones. She was no longer the betrayed bride, but the one who had led an entire room past shame and into truth. Marcus slumped in a chair, face pale, head in his hands, a hollow contrast to the polished man who had walked in only hours before. Alicia stood beside Naomi, her eyes still wounded, but lit with freedom. The woman once abandoned was no longer alone. Officer Ramirez stepped forward, reading Marcus his rights. The snap of handcuffs was sharp and final. Guests exhaled as if a burden had lifted from them. Marcus thrashed, shouting, Naomi, you'll regret this. Vanessa will come back. His threat was cut off as officers dragged him away. The ballroom doors closed behind him with the clank of chains. Naomi scanned the room. It was no longer heavy with despair, though not yet peaceful. Guests whispered, nodded, or stepped closer to her. An aunt clasped her hand and murmured, Child, you've done what your father would be proud of. Naomi smiled, eyes stinging. As guests trickled out, Naomi remained with Janelle, Alicia, and Mama Ruth. Police collected statements. On stage, the wedding gift box was sealed in an evidence bag, but Naomi no longer saw it as a burden. It had served its purpose, exposing lies, giving her the power to choose. Janelle nudged her, half grinning. You know, you just turned a wedding into a town hall meeting. If this were live-streamed, the whole of Houston would be buzzing. Naomi laughed softly, a laugh full of life. Maybe so. But at least they'll never say I stayed silent when I should have spoken. Alicia's voice, low but steady, followed. Thank you. Without you, I'd still be seen as the abandoned wife, forgotten and voiceless. You gave me back the truth. Naomi laid her hand over hers. We move forward together. No one has to endure alone anymore. Mama Ruth watched them, nodding gently, whispering a prayer of thanks. Late into the night, when the police left and only staff remained tidying the wreckage, Naomi removed her veil, letting her hair loose. She sat by the window, gazing out at Houston's glowing skyline, the faint sound of sirens drifting in. She thought of Vanessa, still at large. But for the first time in months, Naomi felt no fear. She had learned one truth. Darkness cannot swallow truth, it only makes it shine brighter when someone dares to lift the light. Naomi rose, turning to her mother and Janelle, Let's go home. Tomorrow begins a new chapter. And as they left Riverbend Grand, Naomi's gown trailed a long white path across the wooden floor. It was no longer the symbol of a ruined wedding, but a banner of victory. Victory of truth, justice, and of a woman who had chosen to keep herself whole.